Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the live, another one on a Sunday evening. Thank you for joining us as you'll be getting in on the live. Bruce, thank you for having us tonight and joining us this evening. It's not every day that you get to sit with a Comrades legend. This is a platform that is great for people like myself and who've fallen in love with running at a later stage, like in my 40s. 30, well, I started 2 years ago, so now I'm in my 40s, so I'm loving it more. So I'm also bringing you to also share the journey with us for people like me who have no idea in running at all, or who are interested in doing the Comrades as well, but who doesn't have like extensive years of running in the field and or for ultra marathon. So welcome. How are you doing tonight? Oh, sorry, you muted. Let me.
No, that's the
Yes,
new.
yes.
Yes, no,
Yeah.
I'm great. Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, it's been a lovely day, and there's a hint that winter might be one day coming to an end.
Oh, I can't wait for summer. It's been like going
Yeah, but
up the.
you're too young. You won't remember, but September the 10th, September the 10th, 1981. It snowed in Joburg. Heavy snow. The whole city was white.
Uh-huh.
You'll remember that.
Oh, nice. But was it exciting? Because I really hope for a snow, as long as it's not gonna drop like the temperature too low. But yeah, it would be nice to have some snow.
It was very exciting. Yeah, that at the time, the teachers couldn't keep the children in the schools because they all ran out to play. But when
So,
I say snow, I mean proper snow, not a little flurry like we sometimes get.
like, yeah.
September 81, it came down thick, heavy snow all over. The branches of the trees broke.
Wow.
Yeah,
Did it last for days or how?
no, because the next day it was back to spring. The next day it was back to like 25, 26 degrees, and the snow melted quickly. But it was just a
Really?
yeah.
Oh, wow, that's
It's feeling
interesting. I've never heard of it. Ne?
yeah. September 1981.
I'll definitely check it out. Welcome, guys. We have also the live audience, and the setup is we frequently also go through the comments and answer them if there are burning questions and lovely comments. But thank you again for having us. So let's please rewind back a bit. What first got you into running? Did you ever imagine it would shape your life the way it has?
So Thandeka, I was always a good runner. You know, at school when it was athletic
Mhm.
season, I played every sport, and it seems ridiculous because I'm small, but I loved rugby, and I was quite good football. I was useless at cricket, but always when it came to running, I was good. And in my like, I never know what the grades are because my days are still standard, but standard 9, I think that's grade 11, matric. You know, then I won
Mm.
the school country, and when it was athletics day, then I would win like the 1500 meters or the 5000 meters, and then I went to university, and I didn't think about running at all. But in my second year at university, 1976, I'm giving my age away. 1976 was the first year that South Africa had television. People don't know that. That's when
For
we had
public
television,
usage, sorry, for
and
public usage or at the shops, sorry, the TV.
no, it was for everybody. We only got television in 1976 because the old
Oh,
nationalist apartheid government didn't want us to see television programs where there were different races were mixed, and they didn't want us to hear news from that might have a different
oh,
political angle. So they resisted television as much as they could until eventually there was nothing they could do. So 1976 we had television, and I watched the Comrades Marathon on TV. They showed it in 1976. They didn't do it live like they do it now. They showed like a half an hour program about the Comrades like 2 weeks after the race. And I remember looking at it and thinking, I could see some people who weren't athletic at all, and they were finishing, and I was thinking, well, that guy can do it. I can definitely do it. And I did, Alan Robb won that year. He won. That was the first time he won. He won 4. I didn't think I could be like Alan, but he, it was the race itself inspired me. Then there were a couple of other factors. One was that June 16, 1976. We all know what happened there. June 16, 1976 was a depressing day for me because I was a student at WITS, and we marched in solidarity with the pupils in Soweto, with the students in Soweto. We marched, we tried to join them, can you believe it? And we marched, I remember, from the university, and down Jan Smuts Avenue, heading into town. And I was walking, well, here's an interesting name. I was walking with a friend of mine, a very good school friend of mine, Paul Ziller, Helen's brother. We were walking together, and the police attacked us. The police came and they smashed us. And they chased us around, and one of my classmates got hit over the head with a baton, and she had blood pouring down her face. And anyway, we got routed. That's the only word for it. And that was quite depressing. So I wanted to have something to do. Then I saw Comrades on television, and then one of my friends at university had run the Comrades the year before, and he showed me his medal. It was in a little box, because in those days, when you ran Comrades, your medal was sent to you from the South African Mint a month later. You didn't get it on the day. You got it a month later, engraved with your name on it and what time you had run. Imagine if they did that now for 22,000 people. But so he showed me his medal. I remember looking at it and thinking, I want one. I want one. And so I started in June 1976 from scratch. My first run was 10 minutes around the Wits rugby fields. I ran for 10 minutes. And I ran at night in case anyone saw me, because I was too embarrassed. And from there, I kept on going. And the following year, I ran my first Comrade. It was 77.
That's interesting. So after running, did you just drop all the other love for sports, especially the one that you had said you were not good at, like rugby? But
no. You see, I played rugby until the end of matric, but when you get to university, then it was another level, and I wasn't that passionate about rugby to try and make the Wits rugby team. There were some big guys there. I mean, so I didn't carry on playing, and I didn't carry on playing football anymore. One of my old friends, we weren't at the same school, but one of my old friends was Gary Bailey. And some people will remember Gary Bailey was Manchester United, England, and Kaizer Chiefs goalkeeper. He was at school. He was a fellow. He wasn't at the same school, but I saw him in when we played games, and Gary would only play one position, and that was goalkeeper. He was already back then. He was very good.
That's interesting. Do you still watch soccer today? No.
I do, but I'm more of a rugby fan. I love rugby. Yeah, I just think, and of course, it's so easy to love rugby because we're world champions, and we win. I mean, yesterday we beat Italy. We're going to beat them again next Saturday. It's quite, and rugby. I mean, I think Russie's done an incredible job with the team. We've actually got such depth that we've got 3 teams. At the risk of exaggeration, in each position, there's at least 3 guys who could play. And all of them world class, and all of them, any other country in the world would just snap them up if they could.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, thank you for that lesson. If Bruce at 25 met Bruce today, what would they say to each other about running in life?
If I met myself when I was young.
Yes.
Well, yeah, you touched on it when you asked me the question just now. I had no idea that when I went for my first run for 10 minutes around the Wits rugby fields, that it would be the greatest gift I ever gave myself, because from then on, I never stopped. And it took me 5 years to win the Comrades, but it took me 3 years to realize that I'm good at this, that I can win. So the first year I just finished Comrades. I mean, I ran a very good time. I got a silver medal. So there's lots of people who would love to get a silver medal at Comrades. I ran 6:45, my first Comrades. And then the second one I improved. But then my breakthrough was the third year. In my third Comrades Marathon, I finished third. And when I was third, I could see down the road. I could see the person who was second, and I wasn't that far behind the person who won, Pete Forster, 1979. And so in 79, I always say that was my breakthrough, because then I knew I could win. And then I messed it up the following year. I came second. In 1980, I came second. Then 1981, I won. So but 1979 was the year that I realized, no, I can do this. I'm very good at this. Because also that particular year, I ran a very fast second half. I went through halfway. I was lying 26th position. And by the end, I was third. I just caught everybody. I just went flying. I mean, that was a great run.
Yeah, I think also the second position is still great. I would like boast like the first one. But that's coming from me, because I'm just imagining completing Comrades. But I know the second person is always like not looked like thoroughly upon. But yeah, I think I understand.
Second position is obviously, before I started running, if you said to me, one day you'll be second in the Comrades Marathon, I would be completely shocked, and I'd say absolutely. But second is a tough position, because you could have won it. You know, you could have won it if you'd done one or two things differently. You could have won it. So I had 365 days to think about how I should and could have won it. But then luckily for me, I put it right. The following year, I did win. And funny enough, I had that conversation with Gerda Steyn. We chatted about it, because she's also been second in Comrades. She came second before she won. And she said to me, second is terrible, hey, Bruce. And I said, yeah, I know.
Really?
So because she lost to Anne Ashworth won when Gerda was second. And Anne ran magnificently, but Gerda was like, she will tell you right now that she should have 5 wins, but she's got 4 wins because she came second once.
But look at her today. She's our queen right there. Please hook us up. Now I'm trying myself. Okay, let's move on.
She's a good friend. Yeah, I'll tell her that she must phone you or email you.
Okay,
but she's busy.
Yeah, I can imagine. I usually see her videos on her website, On Your Run. I do look up to her as well. So what does your running routine look like these days? Is it still meditative, competitive, or more playful now?
No, much more playful. I do it for health. I do it for well, I need my routine. So I run 7 days a week. But my passion now is that I started in South Africa. I started Parkrun. So 5Ks free, run or walk on a Saturday morning. And if you had to say to me, that is what I'm most passionate about now. And in fact, even if I look back on my Comrades career, that's wonderful. And if I inspired a few people to run the Comrades, that's also great. But Parkrun is like legacy stuff, what we will leave behind. And Parkrun doesn't belong to me. I just started it in South Africa. And long after I'm gone, it will carry on going. I mean, we've got 225 different venues now. And on a normal day, so I'm not counting this Saturday because it was freezing, but on a normal day, we can get 35 to 40,000 people taking part around the country every Saturday, 52 times a year. And we're getting bigger.
Very big. I've noticed them here in Benoni. I recently moved into Benoni, the Eastern, so I haven't really went there, but I would see them when I'm running with my club, the Waterfall City. So it's always packed on Saturday mornings, like with no doubt. So it's a lovely community.
The beauty of Parkrun, you see, is actually it should be called Park Walk as well, because you can walk. You don't have to run. No one will laugh at you. You can be slow. No one will laugh at you. and they will take your time, and you'll have a great afternoon. And in fact, it's not, I mean, morning. It's not about Parkrun is not about the run. It's actually about communities. It's that people come
Yes.
together as a community, and then they gather the excuses to do the run.
Okay. So I'm moving on to a segment about running around 40, it's like starting later in your age. I started running later in my life, just like many people in their 30s or 40s watching this podcast. And is it ever too late to become a good one, like a good runner?
No, it's never too late, because we have age groups, remember,
Mhm.
and you must start. And the key is that people are impatient, so they want results immediately, and they have to learn patience. Becoming a good established runner is like making a fine wine. It takes time. And I'm a good example. It took me 5 years of running to win
Yeah.
Comrades. I could not have won it in my first year, no matter what I did. And if I had trained that hard to win it, I would have been injured.
Mhm.
And then the best example of age is the very great, and sadly late, but the very great Wally Hayward ran Comrades when he was
Mhm.
80. He ran it when he
Yeah.
was 80 years old. So, and he won it when he was a younger man. He won it 5 times. So he won 5 times, and then he ran twice when he was in his 80s. And that there is the answer, you know.
Yes, yes. And what should late bloomers focus on when starting out? The mileage, the speed, the mindset?
No, they need to, none of those things. They need to focus on the consistency. You have to keep going. So what happens is you've got to run, I would say, 5 days a week. And then it becomes part of your routine. As I've said to you, I run 7 days a week. That's not completely accurate, because I will take a rest day, or sometimes
Okay.
it's, I don't know, the weather's so bad you can't run. But I will miss only a day here and there, whatever, and then I keep going. It's the consistency, it's the routine, it's doing it all the time. Doesn't matter about the speed, but the consistency of always going out and having your run is the vital thing.
Okay. What changes have you noticed in your own body or performance as you've grown? Any long-term effects from all those ultra marathons?
Yeah, now I've had a knee replacement, so I have a metal knee,
Oh,
but I'm still running. I've got a metal and plastic knee on my right knee, so yeah, there's definitely some damage, and I know quite a few runners have got hip and knee problems after years. But you have to remember, in my case, I've done over 200,000 kilometers of running, and I've run 30 Comrades, probably well over 100 ultras, 300 to 400 marathons. And these legs have been absolutely amazing, because they've carried me through all that, and they've taken me there. So, and then you also have to remember that a lot of those marathons and ultras were run flat out, not slowly, under 4 minutes a kilometer all the way. So, for me to have just one knee thing, I really doesn't worry me.
so it doesn't get you any pain, or it's long healed now. It's
No, I don't
because
know.
you
I
still
don't know per se. What happened with my knee is that the cartilage wore out, so my knee started going skew. I started standing like that. It was not so. I had the operation. It straightened my knee, and it was
okay.
funny enough. You phoning me. It was a year ago. It was a year ago
Oh,
next week that I
that's
had my
recent.
operation, and I'm running. I'm running on my knee, on an artificial knee. So I'm not running fast, but I'm running.
Yeah,
And
you're still
the doc-
moving.
the doctor
It's
knew, the surgeon knew. He said, "I know you're going to run." He said, "So my advice is don't, but I know you will anyway." And so then finally he said to me, "But stay away from the marathon." So I said, "Yeah, I'll stay away from the marathon. I'm not going to run any more marathons." And I've done 30 Comrades, so that's good enough.
you are satisfied.
Yeah.
Are there any recovery rituals or strength exercises you swear by now that you are older?
Rituals. You know, when I raced, I had a pattern that I followed leading up to the race in the last week that I would follow. Now, not really. I do some gym and some little bit of weight work and stuff like that. And my wife and I have a trainer who comes and trains us twice a week. But it's almost, I mean, almost stuff like mobility and stuff like that, because I think as you get older, you start to lose the ability, you know, for quite a few things. So it's like a little bit of strength. I want to be, when I'm 90, I want to be able to get up if I fall over. You know, there's so many elderly people who can't get up. If they fall over, they can't get up. And then they're in big trouble unless there's somebody who sees them and comes and helps them. I want to be able to get up and lift weights. So if I go to the shops and one of the car guards tries to carry my bags for me, I won't let them, because I want to carry those weights. You must carry weight. You've got to exercise and do weight bearing exercise as you get older.
Okay. And then when it comes to the heart of running, what's your personal why? And when it comes to running, and what has been your consistent motivation through the years?
I think it's part of my routine. So, you know, tomorrow morning I will wake up very early in the dark and I'll go and run 10Ks. And it's very slow, but I will do it all in the dark. You know, obviously in summer it's light. And the following day I'll do it again. And the following day I'll do it again. And I will only not run because of very bad weather, or something like that. Or a year ago, I had my knee replacement. So I had no choice. For a month, I couldn't run. I couldn't even walk because it was still healing from the operation. But as soon as I could, I got walking. And as soon as I could, after walking, I started shuffling. And then from shuffling to running. So what it does for me is, no matter what kind of a day I have, if I can have a really bad day where everything goes wrong, where, I don't know, stuff at work is not happy, I'm getting into a fight with someone, there will always be one good thing that I did that day. And that was I went for a run. And so that starts you off by saying, I ran this morning. And that's a big tick. Well done. Now you can get on with the rest of the day.
So it's for you, it's like it's part of you. It's like you don't ever need motivation, have you? Or you don't have those lazy days ever since?
No, I can have a lazy day, but by the second or third day, I will be climbing the wall. I have to run.
Okay.
So it's just part of who I am. It's like saying to you, stop breathing. You know, I'm going to run. I ran this morning. I'll run tomorrow morning. Next Saturday, I'll do a park run. In fact, next Sunday, we've entered a race. My wife and I are doing a race. I'm going to run the Gerald Fox race at Zoo Lake next Sunday.
Okay, that's interesting. I will check it out. Any run that brought you unexpected joy, even as simple as a morning park, that you can think of right now, besides the comrade wins and stuff? Simple run.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you say joy, to watch sunrise, you know, to watch a sunrise when you're running, to hear the birds. I'm a keen birder. Funny enough, I've got an interview tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow. I've got an interview on Wednesday with BirdLife South Africa. It has nothing to do with running, and so I like to hear this, like the seasons change, and you can hear from the birds and that sort of stuff. You become closer to nature, I think, which is important. And I'm an archaeologist. That's actually what I taught at university, archaeology. And we humans are hunter-gatherers, and we have forgotten to be in tune with nature. But we would have been. When we were hunter-gatherers, we would have known everything about the weather, about the animals we hunted, about the plant foods we gathered, the seasons, all that sort of stuff. We've sadly forgotten that. But I think one of the things that happens when we run is that we remind ourselves that we're hunter-gatherers. And we are one of the most efficient running animals on the planet. With all our joints and our ligaments and our tendons and our feet, we are incredible running animals, and we can sweat. So we can cool down. Other animals can't. They can't. So we are actually one of the best running creatures on the planet. Yes, if you look, a cheetah is much faster than us. A cheetah will absolutely, but only for 400 meters. And then the cheetah, 400 or 500 meters, and that cheetah's tired and it can't keep it up anymore. Go all day.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, do you pour any knowledge on that? Is there on archaeology? Do you still have interest in that? Like,
I do. The other day, I gave a talk for a company on the origins, on the early hominid fossils in the cradle of humankind. So I'm fairly knowledgeable about those. I mean, I had to swat it up because the expert in South Africa is Professor Lee Berger. He's the man. But I can still give an interesting talk, and you'll be fascinated to listen to it. And then I was taught by Professor Philip Tobias about the early hominids. He was also one of the world's experts. Sadly he has died, but and then I did a lot of work with Bushman San rock art. So I know where all the rock art sites are and where the best paintings are in South Africa.
Yes. Just a question on the side. Have you ever met Credo Mutwa, Baba Credo Mutwa, when you speak about this?
I did. I wish I had met him. I've read his books. I didn't meet Credo Mutwa. And funny enough, he lived quite close to me. But I never met him, because now we know he's no longer with us. But I have read his books.
It's quite interesting. Hey, I've never met him, but as I grew older and moved this side, because I'm from KwaZulu-Natal, I had always tried to plan, like, each year I want to go to Kuruman to go meet him and learn more about these things and stuff. But I just never got to meet him. I only went to Soweto and he wasn't available at the time. So yes, that's quite an interesting side of our human history. Okay, moving on to the author in you. So so many runners have mentioned your books, the marathons, the Marathon Runner's Handbook. What inspired you to write it in the first place?
Okay, the Marathon Runner's Handbook was actually was a project given to me by the publishers. They wanted me to write a book on marathon running because they had a series of books at the time: mountain climbing, fishing, cycling, and so they approached me to write a book about marathon running, and I wrote it. I co-authored it with a lovely lady called Marielle Renson, and the publishers put all these beautiful pictures in it or whatever. But that's not the book that I'm proud of, and I'm going to ask my wife to get a copy of it in the garage. And it's to show you the book that I'm really passionate about is a book that I wrote called Winged Messenger. And Winged Messenger is a book about how to run your first Comrades Marathon, based on my first Comrades Marathon. And so what I've got down there, one of the things I did when I ran that first 10K race, when I ran that first 10 minutes around Wits rugby fields, was, I don't know why, but I wrote every single run down. I wrote them all down. I kept a training diary, and I still do. So I have a pile of books like this, and I don't keep it in I don't know, I don't keep it in the cloud or whatever. I write it down. And so I've got all these books, and I took my first book, my first training diary, and I went through it, and I copied it all down, exactly what I did from June 1976 to May 1977 to run my first Comrades. And the book is called Winged Messenger, and very kindly, Julie's going to get a copy. Here's a copy. That's it. Winged Messenger. Okay. That's the book. It's got a nice picture with me with Madiba on the back. And why is it called Winged Messenger? What a strange name. It's called Winged Messenger because the Comrades logo, here we are. The Comrades logo is Hermes. Mercury is his Latin name, but his Greek name is Hermes. He was the winged messenger of the Greek gods. So that's why my book is called Winged Messenger. And that is the badge of Comrades. It's the winged messenger. And he was Hermes, and he was fittingly the god of the roads. So for the Greeks, he was the god of all roads. And of course, Comrades is a road race. So I wrote this book about how to run your first Comrades with all little stories in it and advice and stuff like that. And astonishingly, I've sold 10,000 copies. You go and ask an author, 3,000 copies is a bestseller in South Africa. And I've sold 10,000, not because it rivals Shakespeare or anything like that, but because it tells you how to run your first Comrades and how to train. And every year, Comrades, there are 3,000 to 4,000 first timers. There are 3,000 to 4,000 novices, and they want to know what to do. So they buy my book, and then I sign it, and I put a little message in there saying, "Good luck for your first Comrades." And I will continue to sell that book for the rest of my life because it's how to run your first Comrades.
Yeah. Yes, I am still to get my hands on that book.
Winged Messenger. It's in most bookshops, but I've also got a lot of copies.
Yes.
What I do, that I'm clever. When I go and I get asked to give a talk to a running club. So let's say, I don't know, Run Zone will ask me to give a talk to their runners about how to run Comrades. I take along 20 of my books, and then people buy them that night. It's not, and I do a lot of speaking. I mean, not this time of year. The next 6 months is very quiet. People don't want me. It's not the big running season. But come January, once we get to January, everybody's head down because they're all running Two Oceans and Comrades. Then they want me.
So your first 6 months of the year is always quite busy.
Up until the day after Comrades, it's very hectic. And now it's quiet. There's still some, there's still some big races, like there's the Cape Town Marathon, the Soweto Marathon, the tough one that comes up. There's the Kaapse Hoop. There are still some big races, but it's not as busy as January to May to June.
Yes. So now that you mentioned also the Soweto run, I have been talking to people and other runners out there saying that I would like to do the Soweto as my first 42. Would you advise that for a beginner?
Look, you've got to run a marathon at some stage. Soweto is not easy. It's a tough race. It's hilly. I mean, we all know, just go and drive to Soweto, it's hilly. It's also, unfortunately, the time of the year that it's run, it's hot. So it is hot and hilly. You're not going to get your best time there, but a marathon is a marathon, and there is no such thing as an easy marathon. It's 42 kilometers, not easy. So I can tell you this, I travel overseas occasionally, and my sister lives in London, and so sometimes I've been in London and I stay with her, and I've run around. I will go and run some of my favorite runs is to run around Hyde Park, to run around Kensington Gardens, those places, because it's quite close to where her house is. I run there. If I wear a Comrades T-shirt or a Comrades peak cap, I'll get the odd person who'll look at it because they know this wing messenger. They know the badge. But I wear my Soweto Marathon T-shirt. They really are interested because to them, wow, you've run a marathon in Soweto. Wow. Tell us about it. That's quite interesting. Soweto jumps out at it, you know. I like tops that are big, that tell everybody 2 oceans, 56 Ks. I want it in big letters so that they can see, ooh, this guy's done a 56K race, not this little 42K thing that they do. 56 or a 90. But Soweto jumps at them. They people look at it, you can see, wow, didn't know there was a marathon in Soweto. So if you are going to go and do one at Soweto, be warned that it is hot, it is hilly, you will go much faster somewhere else, but it's Soweto, you know, so go along and enjoy the experience.
Yeah, yes. So back to the book, have you received feedback from new runners who picked up the book and said, hey, this really like 100%
So
got me
many,
to
so
many.
many, yeah, so
Mm.
many people, and they have said they loved reading it. And I have so many people who've said to me one thing. They said, please write another one. So I'm busy writing another one now. And this is how to run your first Comrades. The book I'm writing now is how to win it.
Oh.
So yeah, so there's very few people who can win it. But that doesn't matter because they'd still be interested to see what do you have to do to run 5.5 hours? What training do you have to do to run 5.5 hours? So I've got all that in there and exactly how I did it. So people would still find that interesting. So for me, you know, if I look at some of my heroes, if Kipchoge, if he wrote a book about how to run 2 hours for a marathon, I can never run 2 hours. I mean, even when I was young, I was fast. I was quick for a marathon, but not his league. But I would still buy his book because I want to see, okay, that's what he did. Wow. You know, that's what he still does to run so close to 2 hours for 42 Ks. So I would buy his book just like, in fact, because I'm a runner, I'll buy any book on running. You know, we spend thousands on our running shoes. We spend thousands in the physio getting our injuries sorted out. And a little book like this that costs 200 Rand, why would you not buy it? It tells you everything. If Eliud Kipchoge bought out a book, I would buy it immediately. But if Alan won 4 times before me. If Alan bought out a book, I'll buy it straight away. If Gerda Steyn writes a book, I'll buy it.
I'm always on her website for her blogs and the nutrition, the whole shebang, because I'm trying to get the inside scoop, see what goes in her mind or her runs and all that. So I understand what you're saying, that you just quickly buy it. So your book for me is it's on the list for the up book shopping. Yeah. So the other question that I have, but you've just answered it, was if you had to write one new chapter for 2025 edition, what would it be? So in a way, you've answered it.
Yeah, I will write about how to win. What I did win. But you see, I've done a lot more than that because I've written about that particular time, what was happening with the politics in South Africa. I put all that into my next book. So it's taking quite a long time because as I write it, I think of more stuff. So I have to sit down every day and say 2,000 words. 2,000 words, go.
So earlier on, you mentioned that in South Africa, the television came in and they were trying to hide, and that's where you saw you watched the Comrades Marathon. So was it only were there blacks participating at that time, or it was mixed?
Yeah, that's a good question. So 1976 there were, but the first year that black runners were allowed to run Comrades was 1975. And by the way, women. So there were no women and there were no black runners until 1975. And here's the embarrassing thing about 1975. I didn't run 75. I only ran, as you heard, my first one was 1977. But in 1975, black runners were allowed to run, but they had to wear their ethnic tag underneath their number. They had to wear a label which said what they were. So it would say Xhosa, Zulu, whatever.
Really?
Yes, embarrassing, hey, when you look at it now. Because what happened was the nationalist government minister of sport declared it an international race. It's an international race. So these are not South Africans who are running. These are people who come from Lesotho, or they come from Zululand, or they come from whatever. You see, that's why they wore their ethnic tag. So the most embarrassing thing about 75 is Vincent Khabashani Rakabeli came fourth. I think he was fourth. It might have been 75. It might have been the next year. And they've got these photographs of him coming fourth, but underneath his number it says Sutu. And then the worst, and then the funniest, I mean, now when you look back on it, it's comical. They ran out of Xhosa labels because there's so many people so they had to give the Xhosa people Zulu labels. I mean, it's just
oh. So they were not even prepared. Imagine.
Well, some of the students at the time, I was told they wore labels underneath their numbers saying German, Italian, English, to say what their origins were, to show how stupid it was. They made their own labels and put them on, that. And then women were not allowed to run Comrades because they said women can't run Comrades. They won't be able to give birth. They won't be able to have children. It will kill them. And, so they were only allowed from 1975 onwards. And now you look at Gerda Steyn, she makes the top 20 men. She's top 25. And she was not the breakthrough. The real breakthrough of just how good women could be at Comrades, or how fast, was Frith van der Merwe. Frith won 3, 1988, 89, 91. But her 1989 run was just unbelievable. She finished 15th. And now, yes, Gerda has gone a bit quicker, but Frith in 1989 just showed all of us, whoa, this is what women can do. And also, she looked like Gerda does. She, in 89, when Frith won, she came in smiling. Her little pigtails were jumping up and down, and she was running like 5 hours, 54 minutes. So, yeah, it was a fantastic run.
Yes. So can we please also go through the questions on the live?
I can't see any. Sorry, I need your help. Where there
should be an option on the side of StreamYard. Otherwise, I can.
My very able technical assistant.
She will
my wife is going to come and help me. It's an option on the side next to StreamYard.
It should pop as a notification. It's just that I haven't seen it from my end, but I will also display it on the screen.
Who's your all-time favorite runner? Ooh, that is very, very difficult. It depends on what distance. But I'm going to have to say, because I met him and because he created such a breakthrough, Kipchoge Keino, Kip Keino from Kenya, 1968 Mexico Olympics. He ran a time that they said you couldn't run. It was impossible to run that time. And he ran he just became a legend. Kip Keino is like he was the breakthrough for Africa. He was not alone, actually. There was a Naftali Temu, there was Amos Biwott. The Kenyans and the Ethiopians announced themselves to the world in 1968. And I was a schoolboy and I was at school in England. So we had television and I watched the Olympic Games in black and white because they didn't have color television in those days. And I watched that and he was phenomenal. Then I would say, maybe Carlos Lopez. Carlos Lopez, a Portuguese runner who won the Olympics when he was 39 years old. He won the LA Olympics in 1984. He also won the World Cross Country Championships 3 times. And he won once when Zola Budd won. So he and Zola Budd shared the top step of the podium. She won the ladies' race and he won the men's race. And here's an interesting thing. He said to her, Zola, I think we will be the last 2 people who are not African to win the World Cross Country Champs, because after that, the Kenyans and Ethiopians came. And Zola answered him and she said, I'm African.
Ah, yes.
He forgot that he was from South Africa. Yeah. So, Carlos Lopez, Bill Rogers helped to explode the running boom. He won 4 Boston Marathons and 4 New Yorks. Bang, 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 like that. And he did a lot to grow running. And then the great breakthrough came. The great breakthrough came in 1972 at the Munich Olympics, when Frank Shorter was a student from Yale University. He was American. And the Americans had had a terrible Olympic Games. They had lost all the things that they normally win. The men's sprint, the basketball, a whole lot of stuff they lost. And they were never associated with the marathon. And he won the marathon in convincing style. And the commentator who was doing the commentary, and you've got to be my generation, was a man called Eric Siegel. And Eric Siegel had written a book that was a bestseller around the world, that became a movie that was one of the most famous movies of all, called Love Story. I won't bother you with the details about it, but Eric Siegel was doing the commentary about Frank Shorter. And when Frank Shorter came running into the stadium, he said, forget about the Super Bowl. He said, forget about Wimbledon. Forget about the Tour de France. He said, this is the greatest moment in sport. When the first runner comes home in the marathon in the Olympics, that is the greatest moment in sport. And he said, devil, will you have my soul if I can swap places with Frank? And then he explained, he said, I'm just an ordinary guy, but I've run 8 marathons, and you can too. And the next day, hundreds of Americans started running because they watched Frank Shorter, and hundreds started running. And that is the beginning of the running boom. Before that, and I'm old enough to remember, there were no runners. You never saw any runners, nothing, nobody. If you saw a runner, it was a mad person. From 1972, it started growing, and it came to South Africa in 1976 with the first televised coverage of Comrades. And then you started to see running everywhere.
So I think you, in a way, touching up on that, relating to this question to you. As a culture, do you feel, oh, yes, please go.
Do you feel running declining or improving with time? Okay, so what's happened with running is that it's growing and it's becoming more accessible to more people. So there are many more people running than when I started. Having said that, when I started, we were a lot faster. But we were all serious, you see. And so now there are many, many more runners who are just enjoying it, trying to be healthy, maybe doing the odd fun run, maybe doing park runs and things like that. In my day, if you were a runner, you were deadly serious. And I will tell you what I mean by that. Nowadays, if somebody runs 3 hours for a marathon, everybody goes, wow, what a time, 3 hours. We ran 3 hours for the marathon every single weekend in training. We were that was a different generation. We were faster. There were fewer of us. We were much more serious. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. Now, a lot more people are running. My least favorite thing is to see people running because they've got music, or they've got those little white pods sticking out of their ears. Why don't I like that? Because when you run with music, which would never have been in our day, you are endangering yourself beyond belief. You cannot hear if there's a dog coming for you, if there's a car out of control, or even sadder and worse, you are advertising to criminals that you have equipment on you. They're going to come for you. I know people say, oh no, I've only got music in one ear, I can hear with the other ear. Anyway, that's just one thing, but it's fantastic that there's a lot of people running. And there's a lot of people enjoying running and not being concerned about how fast they run or how well they do. We were concerned about how fast we ran and what times we ran.
Yeah, and to add on that, on my perspective with running with music on, I've also noticed with myself when I run, even on a treadmill indoors, I can get my pace more faster because the music, and I'm trying to
Okay.
follow the beat of the drum. But when
Yeah.
I'm outside on the real world, it's a different story, and I'll be like, why am I slow today? Why is it? But then, in terms of being out there, listening to my feet, my heartbeat, and knowing how to listen to my body, it's a
Yeah, so
it's a
there
pro.
is there's a place for music, and that is on the treadmill in the gym. I agree with you. But
Yeah,
after that, no. And you're being antisocial. Runners are very friendly people. We greet each other. Hi, morning. We greet each other. You know, you got this thing. It's like you cut yourself off from the world. I'm not interested in you. I want to.
Yes, I have Kenneth Little on the comments as well.
Okay, I'm going to ask him to tell us his nutrition strategy. Nutrition strategy was easy. I woke up in the morning. So for 3 days before the race, I carbohydrate loaded, which we probably now know is not correct. But by loaded, I mean I would have emphasized the carbohydrates in my diet: pasta, bread, whatever, potatoes. And then on the day of the race, I woke up in the morning, 1 cup of black coffee, strong. Go to the start line. No breakfast. I never ate anything. Go to the start line and then run for the first hour drinking just water, and after that drinking water and flat Coca-Cola with the gas taken out of it. And then as the race got closer to the end, Coca-Cola with table sugar added. Remember that we didn't have the gels, and we didn't have the goos and the things they've got now. So we just took ordinary cold drink like Coke or whatever it might be, or I don't know, cream soda or something, and added more sugar to it. And that's how we ran. So I've probably given myself diabetes from the amount of running that I did with that. But that is all. And so people say, what did you eat during the race? Nothing. But then remember, I was finished by 11 o'clock. So that's a bit arrogant.
Yeah.
And then he's also asked 2 questions. He asked his view on doping. Well, doping is horrendous. And why do some talented runners fall into this trap? It's a thing called money. That's why. They want to make the prize money and the prestige and the appearance fees you get when you've won a major race. So those are the reasons. I mean, doping is appalling. And by the way, we were drug tested. People said, "Oh, you weren't drug tested in your days." Yes, we were. I was drug tested every single Comrades I won, except one, funny enough. 1983, they forgot. They forgot to drug test us. So in 1983, none of us were tested. They just forgot. But in 81, 82, 84, we were tested.
So Lindy, where he had answered on your behalf that Kenneth, he wrote it in his book, Go By.
Yeah. It is in the diet that I used before the race is in my book, explaining the ritual of the diet. It's a very complicated diet, but it seemed to work for me. Yeah.
And
the running. You're going to get bitten by a dog. You're going to get attacked by a criminal.
Yeah.
Because you don't hear them coming.
And then,
Bruce, the first time we saw black players included in European teams was England. I don't know. I think the Germans might have.
and then
If you say it, if I'm not absolutely sure, so you're assuming so. I don't know for sure. But if you say why would the English be the first to have multiracial teams, is because they had a massive. They colonized the world. I mean, and there's the famous Queen Victoria statement: "The sun never sets on the British Empire," she said, and you know what she meant by that. We hold so many countries that are part of the Commonwealth, or the Empire, as it was called in those days, that every single moment of the day, the sun is shining on part of our empire. And so that's why, because there were so many people who came to Britain of different cultures, different countries, because they were colonies of Britain. I mean, South Africa was a colony of Britain. But then, I don't know, because the Germans also colonized huge parts of the world, so did the French, so did the Portuguese. So I'm trying to think of some of the earliest. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I'm not that old. I'm old, but not that old.
Okay, I think.
Yeah, sorry, Queen Victoria. I was thinking, that's two things. She said the sun never sets on the British Empire, and the other thing she said, using the royal we. So the Queen, the King refers to themselves as we, not I. We. The Queen said, Queen Victoria said, we hold a vaster nation than the world has ever seen. In other words, we hold more territory than even the Romans, even, before even the Romans, the Mongols, all that. The British held the most amount of territory in the world.
Yes,
Which
yes.
is, by the way, I was born in Hong Kong. My father was a South African serving in the British Army, and he was posted to Hong Kong. And so to look after the British Empire, guard it. That's what he was doing. And so I was born there.
Okay. Do you have any family there? Do you still visit there?
I've been back. When I turned 50, I ran the Hong Kong Marathon just for a celebration.
Okay. What's your favorite running shoe right now?
Oh, right now I'm wearing Brooks. For two reasons. I enjoy them, but secondly, actually, to be honest with you, they sponsor Parkrun.
Okay.
So they back us and they support us at Parkrun. So thank you, Brooks. But I've worn the whole lot over the years. At different races, you'll see different shoes. You must remember, my era was amateur. We had no prize money. We got nothing. We got no prize money, nothing. And I get a lot of runners who come to me and they say, I want to sponsor. Then I know I can win Comrades. I say, no, mate. You've got the order wrong. First of all, you've got to go and do something fantastic. Then the sponsors will come. You can't just say, I want to sponsor, and then I'll be great. They're going to say, how do you know? So when people say to me, I came from a very amateur era, I can tell you this now. When I finished third in Comrades, when I came third, I got free shoes. No money. Free shoes. I got free shoes. That was it. And about 10 pairs a year. That was it. No money, no sponsorship, no nothing. But people think that it gets me so angry. There's almost with some runners a feeling of entitlement, like I can win, and so you must sponsor me. No, you've got to win first, then they'll sponsor you. Gerda Steyn didn't get sponsors from the word go. She was an ordinary runner, and suddenly, bang, she arrived. Now the sponsors, I know, because they get hold of me trying to get hold of Gerda. They phone me to say, we want Gerda to appear in our TV ad. But she first of all had to win. Didn't go the other way around. And she had to win, and she had to look fabulous doing it. And she's got all that. She ticks all. If you're a sponsor, she ticks every box. She's attractive. She's happy. The fans love her. She loves her fans. She runs brilliantly. She's a dream to sponsor. But she did the running first.
Yeah, I was gonna say not bad. Scratch the word bad. I'm adding to that it's even the general rule of life that you have to prove yourself in a way in order to receive a service or something. Or I think I would get angry as well or worked up on those who just demand sponsorship. It's a given. It's an obvious given that no, man, prove yourself.
Yeah, you have to win first, or you have to do very well. Then, as I said, when I was third, I got free shoes. Then the following year I came second. I think I got a few more shoes. I had finished second in the Comrades Marathon. There used to be a marathon called Stellenbosch Marathon. It was the fastest marathon in the country, was 7 laps of the city of Stellenbosch, the town of Stellenbosch. And I wanted to go there to run a very fast marathon time because I wanted to improve my marathon time. And I had come second in the Comrades. And I contacted the race organizers and said, I want to run your race. If you guys will pay my airfare and maybe put me in a hotel. They said, we've got no money for you. They said, but if you do well, we'll see how we can sort you out. Well, in the Stellenbosch Marathon that year, I finished third. And then they gave me some money. They said, because you delivered on your promise. You told us you were going to run well. You ran a PB. Here's some money to cover your costs. But I had to get myself down there.
Yeah, show up and put in the hours. So I have another question on the comments.
Unfortunately, I don't know my footballing that well, but there's always politics in sport. So I will tell you the classic. You can't find. There's always going to be politics in sport. It just is. So I will tell you my first Comrades win. I wore a black armband protesting against the fact that the Comrades Marathon allowed itself to be made part of the Republic Day nationalist government celebrations. In 1981, the Comrades, to its shame, agreed to become one of the events that would celebrate 20 years of nationalist government, 20 years of apartheid. There was politics in sport right there. And so some of us who didn't agree with that wanted to show our displeasure. A lot of runners pulled out of the race because they said, we don't want to be part of the apartheid Comrades Marathon. But others of us, like me, said, okay, we still want to run because I knew I could win. So then we wore black armbands to show we do not support this. And I was attacked I got tomatoes thrown at me and eggs, and people booed me the whole way. I was the most unpopular winner of the Comrades ever. In 1981, I was a very unhappy young man, but I'm very proud of my stand at the time. And of course, then what happens is you start winning, and once you win, everybody loves a winner. So I carried on winning, and of course, then they'll always. How did I meet Mandela? I met Mandela on 2 occasions. One was I was late for a plane flight from Port Elizabeth, Gqeberha. I was late getting back to Joburg. I missed my plane. I actually missed my plane, and I came running in. The lady behind the counter, she said, Mr. Fordyce, you've missed the plane. He said, but I tell you what, you're very lucky because we've got a VIP who hasn't actually boarded the plane yet. He's waiting to go out and get on the plane so you can go with him because you've only got one small bag. So I went into the VIP area where this one person was, and it was Mandela. And he was there with his daughter, Zinzi, and one bodyguard. And guess what? He sat in economy. He sat in economy class. He didn't waste taxpayers' money. He sat in economy class for a flight home, like a 1.5-hour flight. But as we walked out towards the plane, all the people, because it was Mandela, his daughter, one bodyguard, and me, and we're walking across the tarmac towards the plane. All the people are looking out the windows of the plane like this, and they were staring. And the ground crew, all the people who put the fuel and all that, they were ululating. They were going berserk because it was Madiba. And he turns to me and he said, Bruce, I bet all the people in the plane are saying to themselves, who's that funny old grey-headed gentleman with the famous Bruce Fordyce? That was his comment. And then, second time I met him, I got a state president's award for sport. And they gave a whole lot of retrospective awards to people who didn't get awards under the old apartheid regime. And if you wear a black armband in Comrades protesting against apartheid, you're not going to get any award. So I was one of the ones who was selected to get a state president's award from Madiba with, interestingly enough, Basil D'Oliveira, who most of you will never have heard of. Basil D'Oliveira was it's correct term, a colored man from Cape Town who was not allowed to be selected for South Africa. He's a cricketer, a great opening batsman. He was not allowed to be selected for South Africa because he wasn't white. So he went overseas and plied his trade for England. And Basil D'Oliveira won the Ashes for England because twice he got centuries as a batsman. And that was what helped them beat Australia. And so Basil D'Oliveira got an award with me. And some of you won't remember him. Jody Scheckter. Jody Scheckter was World Formula One champion. We have a World Formula One champion from South Africa, Jody Scheckter from Scheckter Motors in East London. That's where he came from, and he won the world championship. And he told me he didn't get an award under the old regime because they said, oh, motorsport's not really a sport. You know, the car does all the work. And anyway, Jody's Jewish, so let's not give him an award. So Jody turned to me and he said, Bruce, it was worth waiting to get an award from the great man as opposed to getting it from one of the old presidents. And when Jody drove a car, an Elf Tyrrell that had 6 wheels. And when he walked up, Madiba said to him, Jody, how can you drive a car with 6 wheels? I can't even drive an ordinary car. I've got to get a chauffeur to drive me. And then when it was my turn, I walked up there and he looked at me and he said, here's Bruce, the man with more comrades than my ANC. Sharp, huh?
Yes.
I've got more comrades than the ANC. And that was from him. That's when I met him.
Yeah, and then we have Abantu saying, wow, a lot of people aren't aware of the activism of white citizens. We are also proud of your stand.
Yeah, I'm sad that somehow or other, there's a whole group of people who think that it was only a black struggle. It was a struggle of many, many South Africans for freedom, of all different races and colors, you know. And so my stand was a tiny, pathetic, tiny little thing. But, you know, I have friends, my book that I'm writing now, I'm writing about the chairman of our running club, Oret van Heerden, did 10 months in solitary confinement, in detention, because of his view, his stance and his work with NUSAS, the National Union of South African Students, against the government. You know, he's a white guy, Oret van Heerden, 10 months in detention. And I'm putting that in my book because there's some fascinating stories. Neil Agate was murdered, you know, he committed suicide, Neil Agate. And when I was at university, many of my friends were arrested, were harassed by the security police. When I came back from having worn my black armband, I came back to my student flat. They had trashed it. The security police had gone in, opened the door, gone in, they trashed my flat. They urinated all over my bed and they took every one of my precious, precious albums. We used to have records, you know, like that. They scratched all of them. Yeah. You know, so, and once again, that's a tiny, tiny sacrifice. But Neil Agate died, and others died, you know, and there were people who hid activists. There were people who worked, well, also, you know, all over in my day. So I'm putting that in the book because I'm actually tired of some people not being credited.
Okay. We are over an hour.
Yeah, so sorry. I can go on.
You can. Okay. I have.
No. So sorry, I talk too much. That's what I mean. I can go for another 5 minutes.
This is great. This is great. And also from my side, because schools are still closed, so because I have a young one who just literally waits for me. As long as I'm still up, he's gonna be up. So, but no, it's cool. What's your hope for the next generation of runners in South Africa?
Well, they're doing pretty well. You know what I mean? If you look at Tete Jajana winning Comrades, before him Edward Matibi, Gerda Steyn. It's nice that the race is being won by South Africans. Again, because there was a time, I don't know if you remember, there was a time when the Russians were taking they took a lot of Comrades Marathon. But what I'd really like to see, and what I am involved with, I am on a trust with a donor whose name I can't give you, but he's an ex-South African who's worth billions. and he has donated towards an athletic and cycling trust of which I am on the board. And he has spent hundreds of millions of rands building an athletic school at Tuckies and another one in Stellenbosch. And we are and so the key is that we look for talented youngsters and who are talented at athletics and that have no chance of going to, they've got no money, their parents cannot support them. And then we give them the scholarships and we give them the backing to come. It's not Elon Musk, and it's and we he deliberately doesn't want his name out there, but he's incredibly generous, and we are so excited because these youngsters are coming to the school in grade 8. They can't speak English, they can't do a single bit of maths, and by the end of their time at the school, they have to pass. They get a matric, and they run at the highest level. And we are now starting to see some of our pupils. I'm old-fashioned. I cannot do that word learner. Learner is such a dreadful word. It's somebody who's trying to become a driver. To me, I'm old school. A person at school is a pupil, a scholar, or a student, not a learner. Anyway, sorry, that's my only. I just don't like so American. It's so,
I guess
I don't know.
it's the nature of the English language, ne?
It's a scholar, it's a pupil. Anyway, our youngsters that started with us, some of them are now winning medals at major championship races and coming out with a great matric or whatever. And the conditions that we say is you have to pass and you have to run well, excel. If you don't, you're out because you're taking somebody else's place who could be in. Obviously, if you get injured, it's a different thing. And if you're struggling with some of the academic courses, we give you bridging and we help you. But you must see those youngsters change overnight. And the letters they write us, you want to cry because it says, thanks to you and the anonymous donor, I am now a student at a college in the United States. I run for my country. I've got a medal from the world champs, whatever, because of you guys, so it's that's one of the things that I'm very happy to be part of.
The other question is how can we make running more accessible and joyful, especially for women and communities that don't see themselves as runners yet?
Well, so the obvious answer is come along to Parkrun. Come along to a Parkrun. There we have 225 of them around the country and more. And you will be so welcome. It's free. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. You just have to register. And you print a little paper barcode. And when you finish, you get your result. And now one of our weaknesses at Parkrun is that we're not yet in enough rural communities and township communities. We are, but we're not in enough. And so that is our target now, is to bring Parkrun. And remember, I said it could also be called Park Walk. You can walk the whole way. No one will laugh at you. You can never be last because we have a designated volunteer who goes at the back and is last. And now we have a very close relationship with the Department of Health, and we are targeting bringing parkruns to communities all over. And our next one that we're looking at now, I've got a meeting this week, is Dobsonville. We'll bring a park. We're going to get a park run in Dobsonville. We got a park run in Mafolo Park in Soweto. We would love to get one in Tokoza. We've got one in Mapetla, Sekani Wetlands, Bridgetown, Mitchell's Plain, all over. But we are still making a very small impact. We want to make a massive impact. Where on a Saturday morning, the only thing that will concern you is getting to Parkrun. That's when we know we'll have achieved.
Does that include rural areas? So
yeah, rural. We're in the rural areas as well, and it's a battle.
Are you already there?
We're all over. So you give me okay. I'll tell you one of the ones we're so proud of. Cannibal's Cave. It's a Zulu park run next to the Drakensberg Mountains. It is absolutely stunning. You've got that beautiful view of the Drakensberg, the Sentinel, the amphitheater, but that parkrun is completely Zulu. If you've got two white faces there, it's because those are people who are visiting the Drakensberg. The rest is Zulu parkrun. So that's a rural one. I mean, I can't even, or you mention a town, we've got a parkrun. All over Cape Town, we've got dozens, Johannesburg, dozens, Pretoria, plenty. And then also like all bordering the Kruger Park, plenty there, in the desert, Aggeneys. And we're also starting to go into other countries. So we're in Eswatini, we're in Namibia. I want to get going in Mozambique, Botswana, spread. And then Parkrun is a global movement. So it is in 23 different countries around the world.
Okay. No, I was about to try you. So in KZN, I don't know how much you know of KZN, but do you know of Greytown or Pietermaritzburg?
Isn't that funny that you should say Greytown?
Oh, Greytown, Kranskop.
Greytown, that we are about to start a parkrun in Greytown.
Oh, nice. I'm gonna visit it. I pass there when I go home, so it's my home.
Another 2 months.
Small town.
Give us 2 to 3 months and Greytown Parkrun will start.
That's dope, man. Wow, nice.
Yeah.
So it's funny because we are partly closing. So now that you're mentioning about Parkrun, the previous guest I had, I started out saying one person should leave a question for our next guest. So they had asked the next guest, they didn't know it was you or not. So it's a random question, is what have you done to give back in the community through your running career? So
I think I might have answered that during our chat. Yeah.
Yes. And even with the parkrun, that's great. And the fact that now you're mentioning it's in Greytown. So for me, that's also answering, because I know a lot of people, even my brother's father, my father's brother, now that I'm mixing it. Ubaba Mncane. So it's my uncle.
Your uncle.
Yes. He's
uncle,
been around. He's the one we used to watch on TV in the 90s. Well, my father would follow up on his runs because he knew that his brother is out there running the Comrades. And then also that's how we got to know about Bruce Fordyce, the name, as kids. And then not knowing on my side that eventually, as I grew up, I would also start running in terms of trying to lose the weight. And fast forward to today. My husband, a few weeks ago, had been pushing that you should try to get hold of Bruce Fordyce. I think you would also like to have him on the show. So with that being said, and the part of you giving back to the community, from my side personally, I think you've answered that in that way. Yes. Finally, what does legacy mean to Bruce Fordyce? Let me see the question.
Legacy means what you leave behind that people will be grateful for, that will change their lives, and that they don't even necessarily have to know that it was you that did it, but that you did it. That is the important thing. It's when you die, will people say it was fantastic that person was on the earth, or will they say thank goodness he's gone? To be one of those people where they say thank goodness he's gone would be for me a nightmare. You want, and I think a great legacy is that whatever it is you do carries on, even when people don't even know that it was you. Or they don't know who did that, whatever. But I think Vic Clapham, who started Comrades. People don't know why it's called Comrades. He started it because he wanted to remember his comrades who fought with him in the First World War, in the trenches, in all those terrible battles, the Battle of the Somme, Passchendaele, Ypres. The Battle of the Somme, particularly for South African soldiers, Delville Wood, Bois d'Arcy, with, a few thousand South African soldiers died. And now I can start waxing lyrical, but if you go and you read the war poets, people don't know, they're not on November the 11th, in many countries, they wear a poppy. People wear a poppy on their suit. Poppy is the flower that grew in the churned up ground from all the shells and cannons that fired. It churned up the ground and the earth, and the poppies took seed there, and they rooted, and they're beautiful. As we all know, a poppy is a beautiful red flower with a black center, and the poppy became symbolic of the First World War. So then, I don't know, John McCrae wrote, in Flanders is Belgium, where the battle, a lot of the battles were fought. In Flanders fields, the poppies grow between the crosses, row on row. And that's the scary part, between the crosses, row on row. That's how many people died. Or the greatest wartime poet, Wilfred Owen, who himself died in the war, but he wrote, he was thinking of his little village in England when somebody died, that the church bells would ring, and when he saw the dead guys from the First World War being brought back, he was terribly saddened there were no church bells for them. So he wrote, "What passing bells for those who die like cattle? Only the monstrous thunder of the guns, only the stuttering rifles rattle." Yeah, so those, I mean, I can get emotional thinking about it. So when Vic Clapham came back, that is what he started the Comrades for, to remember his comrades who fell in the First World War. And that is why the Comrades Marathon ends with a trumpet playing the last post. It plays the thing, ba 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 ba, as the final gun goes. You hear a trumpet playing. People say, "Why is there a trumpet?" They don't know why. It's because that last post that is played when a soldier is buried and when the flag is lowered at sunset. So yeah, there you are. That's why we run the Comrades. And of course, now it includes the fallen, the dead of all wars. So it would include those who died trying to free South Africa, you know, that, and all. But it started, Vic Clapham started, and you were talking about legacy. Sorry, so that goes back to my original point. I think Vic Clapham had no idea what he started. 34 runners ran the first Comrades. They were all male white. And the race was small. For a lot of years, it was small. I wish he were alive now, because he would be completely astonished to see his legacy was. This tiny little thing has grown into the most beautiful monster. I mean, I watched the finish of Comrades this year. The last 15 minutes, it's not a race. It's not a running race. It's a rock festival. It's a massive celebration. It is the most incredible thing. And it's ours. It's South Africa. And I've run all the marathons in the world: Boston, New York, London, all of them, except the Olympics. I could never go to the Olympics, but all of them. Comrades is head and shoulders by miles better than any of them.
Wow, that's very interesting. I'll go there in 2 years' time with like thorough knowledge now. Why was it even started?
You got to know all about why all the places are called, all the names along the way. Why is it called this? Why is it called Inchanga? Why is it called 45th Cutting? What is Polly Shorts? What is Arthur C? What is the Wall of Honor? You have a huge, we'll test you in 2 years' time. You can write an exam.
Yes, I'm up for that challenge. So, because we were speaking on legacy, and then you touched up on people in your life who left legacy and history, I have another question from Karabo.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know. He was killed in 1975. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the name. Sadly, to my eternal shame, I'm sure.
No, man, no worries. Another one, Bruce, you see how racism cheated South Africa of so much happiness and potential success.
Indeed it did, eh? You know, when you run the Comrades, you run past a beautiful section of the Comrades. You look across and you can see the Valley of 1,000 Hills. You can see KZN's Table Mountain. You can see below you the Umgeni River, where the Duzi Canoe Marathon is paddled. And by the way, I've done 10 Duzi Canoe Marathons. You look down there, and Alan Paton wrote about those hills that you look at in his book, Cry the Beloved Country. And I think Cry the Beloved Country is like one of the most astonishing books about South Africa. But we are still, despite all that, we are still an amazing, amazing country. I should have kept my armband and handed it over to my children. And my armband was actually a lady's, what do you call it? Just for her hair. It was a hair. It was like a little band for her hair. It was my girlfriend at the time, and all she had was a yellow. It was a yellow headband, and it wasn't black. So we had to go and buy some black dye, and we dyed it. And then, somebody took it off me after I'd finished the race, and I think it landed up in a rubbish bin somewhere. I don't know, but I've got photos.
Okay. In closing, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Can you please leave us a question for our next guest next week, next Sunday?
Oh, wow. That's going to be tricky. You can't tell me who it is.
They also don't know. I will be asking this if they haven't checked the thingy, but yeah.
I'm going to ask. Okay, because I'm a comedian. I make people laugh. When I speak, I make people laugh, and my friends will tell you that I can be quite funny. Haven't been particularly funny tonight, but yeah. The next guest? Who is your favorite comedian and why?
Who's your
because
next?
you see, yeah. The next is who is your favorite comedian and why? And we haven't even touched on that, but. You have to be my generation to know some of the comedians that I can laugh and laugh and laugh. And I'm not bad myself. I'm a comedian.
Have you done stand-up, live stand-up in your times, or do you do that?
No, but I give a lot of speeches. So I give a lot of motivational speeches and a lot of talks to running clubs. And then I make them laugh because you can't be just serious all the time. So I tell them different stories, and I know they're going to laugh, because, yeah. But anyway, thank you. Thanks so much.
They're asking where can they find you on Twitter or Facebook?
I'll have to Instagram and Twitter. X.
As your name, right? Bruce Fordyce.
YouTube. My very technical.
Yes.
Technical assistant, my wife. She
so
tells
it's
me.
Just strictly your name, Bruce Fordyce.
Phones. Yeah, and Fordyce, by the way, is Scottish. It's Scottish. There's a wee village just outside Aberdeen called Fordyce, looking out across the North Sea.
Let me add this on IG and X. Ooh. Okay, I was being manual here, just added there, but it's your name. You guys can find Bruce Fordyce on Instagram and X and YouTube. Yes, on YouTube.
And YouTube. Okay.
Someone is saying I need to get my own technical assistant wife.
Yeah, my technical assistant's my wife. I'm absolutely useless. She's incredible. I just get flustered when I see all this. I get into a state of panic.
I can relate to her. My husband calls me for everything and anything when it comes to.
I just say, "Come help me. When I'm writing my new book, I say, "Help me! I can't find this. I can't find the last page. Help me." Yeah.
Okay. Good night. Thank you so much. Thank you. Really.
Okay. Bye.
It's them same lips you be kissing, yeah, this loving ain't anonymous. This is pure enjoyment, I'm sitting back and I'm pondering. Thank God for you, will always take what you offering. Never too much, never giving me less. On the days that you ain't got it, you always give it your best. Lady, you are mine, I say that shit with my chest. Reason that I love you, you always easing the stress. You my backbone and that's the reason I flex.